It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer, and we're carrying on with our Euros battle beer football thingy that we're doing with best of British beer. So here is the website where you can pick up these beers if you wish, bestofbritishbeer.co.uk. Check them out. We've done 4 beers, so we've done 2 knockouts so far. We're on to the next one now, and this is from England. It's beer number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got 6 beers from England, 6 beers from Scotland. I'm just writing beer number 5 on the bottom of the can there, and I'll write it on the top as well, just in case I miss it. Putting them up against each other, England versus Scotland, 6 different beers. It goes into a kind of like a semi-final thing, and then it goes into a final where we get the champion and runner-up. One of the beers has had a 9.5. That was Scotland's March of the Penguins. That's going to take some beating. But you never know. Harbour Beer, they make some terrific beers. I believe they're now owned by St. Austell. Believe it's St. Austell that now own Harbour. 4% ABV, Singlefin lager, brewed in Cornwall. Let's get it out into a glass and see what we get. A little bit of smoke on the can opening, beer in the glass. Yeah, look at that. It's pretty tidy. There's not much of a head developing, and the head that is developing is has dissipated quite quickly. Using my Cloudwater glass, it's deceptive, this glass. You think you can fit a whole 330 milliliter in there, and you can't. So I'm just going to sip this as to not pour it everywhere. Yes, that's yeah. So, looking at the beer then, good levels of carbonation in the glass. It's a slightly hazy looking lager, straw coloured, no head. Ideally, with a lager, you want a head on it. So let's get the aroma of the... I know we rushed in and had a taste, but let's reset our palates and just get the aroma now then. It's a... I would call this a kind of like a typical... a typical British brewed lager, if you like. There's a hint of smokiness in there. I know they wouldn't have used smoked malt to brew this beer. But there's a little hint of smokiness in there. It's dry and crisp. Light. I say light because I've had a taste of it. I say refreshing because I've had a taste of it. Let's indeed get in. So the first thing I'm getting on the beer then is, even though it hasn't created any head retention on the beer, there's no head on it at all. It offers up quite a lot of carbonation on the palate. It's quite refreshing and bursting with that, not quite kind of champagne yeast kind of carbonation, but there's a lot of carbonation there. It's crispy. It's a well-built lager. It's crispy, it's refreshing, it's drinkable. There's a little bit of kind of malty sweetness to begin with. There's a little bit of bitterness on the back end, a little bit of stinging nettle bitterness. But this is the perfect example of where Britain is, or British breweries are with lager at the moment. They haven't hit the levels yet. And I use the word yet because I think they will. They just need to... I discussed this with a brewer a few weeks ago, Paul from Cloudwater. I discussed lagering with him. And I just don't think whereas you go to the Czech Republic, whereas you go to Germany, they've set up their lager breweries very differently because they're much more mature. They've been brewing lagers for hundreds, if not thousands of years in Germany, certainly hundreds of years. So they've learned to, instead of having their fermenters vertical, they've learned to lie their fermenters down and have them horizontal. If you see my video at Budvar in the Czech Republic, you will see that all the fermenters are laying down, and they're all cold stored lagering facilities where you've got to put a jumper and a pair of gloves on and a hat to go down there because it's freezing cold. And they do that for a reason. They do that because the beer comes out so much better. And I just think British lager, although we are doing what we can with the equipment that we have, and this is the important thing, the equipment that we have. The equipment's not quite right. Using vertical fermenters, not quite right. Not having it, the room really nice and cold. You go into the chillers in the Czech Republic, they're freezing cold, as I just mentioned. They're keeping their lagers nice and cold. It's a long process of lagering too. And as I mentioned just now, I spoke to Paul at Cloudwater about this a few weeks ago, and he was in total agreement with me in the British. It's not quite there yet. It's not right yet. It's not ready yet. And I mean that with the greatest of respects, because what we have is macro lager producers who can produce lagers cheaply, and they kind of taste okay. So if there was big investment in lagering in the UK, and that lager, say you spend £1 million on a lagering plant, and then that beer tastes just a little bit better than, say, Budweiser or Madri, then it's convincing the customer to pay that extra £1 a tin for a beer that tastes a little bit better. And that's the problem with UK lager production, is that it's just a case of big investment. Can we, with that big investment, convince people to pay more money for a lager that's going to taste better, but not a million miles better? Do you know where I am with this? Have you followed where I am with this? So I'm going to rate this Harbour Singlefin lager at 4% ABV. And I'm just going to say that it just represents British lager as a whole. This captivates in a glass British lager from a craft beer producer. It's nice, it's decent. There's some slight estery flavours coming through, but it's not quite on the level of the Czechs and the Germans just yet. So, beer number 5 from England, Harbour. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. We've got another 6, so we'll say 6.5. because it's not that bad. So there we are in the list. We're gonna go and find a Scottish beer now and put a Scottish beer up in Group C against an English beer. I hope you like this video. Please put your comments in the comments box, subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews, give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom, cheers.